So, I mean, I'd like to know a bit about your side of the interview process now. And firstly, I was most curious about what kind of people come to you and what age range.
Yeah, it's well, in terms of the interview coaching, a lot of work that I do is very much helping any client of any age better prepared for their confidence in going into their interview. And it's working with graduates, students who are at the very early stages and starting points of maybe an internship or a graduate program, through to people who are going for promotion. It might be people who have recently lost their job and their confidence is at a real low and they're really looking to sort of find something quite immediately. And I also help work with a lot of very senior level, strategic level roles. And I've recently worked with a 64-year-old. It's never too late, not looking at retiring anytime soon, I hasten to add he was. And he was amazing. And he was literally had, I think what you find with some of the people, of regardless of age range, is that their confidence levels are really at very different points. So even if you are just starting your career or you're in the latter stages of your career, you're looking for reassurance, you're looking for feedback, you're looking to have a sense of what am I doing right? What am I doing that's on the right track, but I just need to tweak or get some improvement with? Because so many people who come to me for interview coaching, they are just not getting any feedback at all. It's like radio silence. They go for an interview, they do as much prep as they can, and then it's nothing. And I think it's such a shame, and it's really shocking how it can really impact on an individual's belief and confidence that they're a strong candidate.
Do you think, I mean, I remember years ago when I was leaving college and uni, a long time ago, you did get feedback. But do
Yeah.
you think you don't get it now? I mean, people say, well, there's too many candidates apply for a job. But do you think it's also a bit, well, we can't say that in case we get sued? Do you think there's something in that?
Yeah, in this very litigious environment, I think it's very much a bit of that. I think it's a case of some of the feedback is just overly generic. It's very general. It's catch-all. It's like, well, you did really well. We really like what you did and what you said, but there was just someone who was a little bit better. But what can you do with that apart from, yeah, well, that's great, but I still didn't get the job. And then there'll be individuals who have literally spent the time and the effort to go through an interview process and they hear nothing, which is just downright rude, in my view, with it. And I think sometimes, the volume of applicants is different if you're getting feedback on an application form, because you can be dealing with hundreds, thousands. But with interviews, it's a much more smaller scale. So feedback is an art in itself. Being able to give feedback to somebody in a very constructive, supportive, positive way that gives them very clear understanding of what's working and what isn't. It is something that is a learned skill. People that are not always very good at delivering it. And the other thing to consider with feedback, particularly around interviews, is that you also have to be open to receiving it. So even if you want to ask for comments about what worked, what didn't, you have to be open to learn about it and to actually be reflective and think, I actually agree with what they're saying. I think actually they've got a point, but I'm not sure what to do with that. And I was working with someone yesterday who had some really specific feedback that was helpful, and it felt genuine, it was authentic, and it was really tangible. And that individual really valued the time spent. And obviously that's a really good reflection of that business, that organisation, of the time and the interaction they spent with them.
Yeah, that would be the kind of company you would want to work with, wouldn't it? Supportive.
Absolutely.
They would be supportive on going through your career. So when they come to you for interview coaching, where do you start? What do you do?
Well, usually they have a telephone consultation with me. So they've got an interview lined up, and it's at quite short notice, because most interviews are usually done at, can you come tomorrow or in 3 days' time? And you're having to literally drop everything, and it's all a bit manic. But we have a telephone consultation really to just assess what their main concerns are, because everybody's very different. Some people just want to have some practice with feedback. Some people are just not sure how to approach certain questions. Some people just feel as though they're really not sure how to manage their preparation, full stop. And particularly those who haven't done an interview for a very long time, if they've been working for 10, 15 years and they've been promoted internally, they've not had an external interview for a while. They really don't know what to expect. So having that consultation is a really good sense check about what it is that they need, and what I can help them with. And typically I would have a look at their CV and have a copy of the job description, details of the job role they're going for. Before the interview, I spend quite a bit of preparation time on sample interview questions. And I think that's really key as part of the preparation. So having sample questions based specifically on the job role and the organisation is not about guaranteeing that those questions are going to come up, because nobody can. You can't guarantee every single question or scenario that will come your way. But what it really helps individuals with is anticipating the main themes and the key areas that they might not have thought of before. And it can help sort of give them a prompt and a nudge about the type of examples that would be really useful to think about and consider. So actually that prep work that I do is something that can help them with the interview. We draw upon that bank of questions. And the interview can be a mixture of literally work through one question, two questions at a time, stop, debrief, what worked, what didn't, what can we tweak, do we want to try that again? And we can cover a huge amount and variety of questions over that period of time. Or it could be a mixture of going through a presentation, listening to someone's approach to a presentation, getting some feedback on that, or just discussing different elements of an assessment centre, the best way and strategy of approaching that. So it can be all of the above, but it's really designed to give people that confidence and reassurance that what they're doing is on the right track. They're having something tangible to work with so they can perform their best self.
That's great. And if you're practicing interview questions, as you say, they might not get that question, but it puts them in the mindset of thinking about answering, doesn't it? How to answer in a different way, think about it. It's a bit like preparing for an exam, isn't it? You have a rough idea of what kind of questions are going to be there, but you need to be prepared.
Completely.
That it might just be a little bit different. I mean, presentation interview training is fantastic because often you do have to do a presentation, don't you?
And I think one of the common things with the presentations now that a lot of individuals are struggling with is that it's all the online format, the virtual meetings and interviews on Zoom. It's really throwing people not just what to wear, or how to set up the technology, or where to look on the camera and the interviews. There's a lot of other factors that are complicating the mix for individuals. But from a presentation point of view, it can really impact the way that you show your body language, your engagement, how you connect with the interviewer itself.
Absolutely. And on Zoom interviews, I mean, one of the biggest tips I would give people is don't wear a bold pattern.
Yes.
It's distracting. And even if you're not on Zoom, even if you're in person, tone it down. Yeah. So what would you say was the most important thing in your interview coaching that you can teach people?
I think the main important thing really is around being able to sell yourself with confidence and understanding your strengths, because that is what differentiates you from anybody else and from other candidates. And one of the most common concerns individuals have is they worry about overselling themselves. They feel really uncomfortable with the idea of talking about and bigging up their achievements or talking about what they're proud of. So questions around what makes them a really strong candidate, what roles, what way does the role play to their strengths? Why should we take you on? What are you proud of? And you can almost see them squirming in their seat because it's like, do I really have to do this? And so the way I encourage people to think about it is there's a difference between skills and strengths. Skills are very much the things that you're being asked to demonstrate competence with, the things that you're good at, the things that you can do. And that's important. And that's what you're putting the hook of all your examples with. But strengths are different. Strengths are things that you're good at, you're competent in, but you get energy from. You're naturally energized, enjoy doing it, you're more passionate about it. And when people talk about their strengths in relation to what they're good at, they immediately find it easier to talk more openly, more positively. They're more animated in the way they communicate, and they're talking with a lot more confidence. So I think sometimes reframing skills and strengths and how they talk about themselves can really help the energy and the language and the way that they communicate.
It does, like it shows with you now. You're passionate about what you do. So, do you encourage people to ask questions from the company, like, you know, where do you see me going from here? Basically, what's in it for me, kind of question.
Yeah, all interviews are a two-way process, even though it doesn't always feel like that when when you're on the receiving end. There should be opportunities for you to speak to an organisation and the employer before the interview to really get a heads up on expectations, any insight into the role. Are there any deal breakers? So you're not going to waste both of your time, but actually speaking to someone before the interview, but also at the interview itself, having at least a couple of questions prepared that will help you get better clarity over, is this the right role for me? Is it right for me right now? And is it the right organisation for me? So whether it's important for you to know what the type of team is that you're working for, what the progression and development opportunities are, what the priorities that you would be expected to focus on in the first few months. There's some great questions that can, not you're just asking for the sake of it to look good, or you feel you should ask questions. It's asking questions with purpose that will help you understand whether this is also a right fit for you.
Yeah, that's really good. And that's the kind of feedback I've heard from employers I've interviewed too. Really important. Thank you. That was great. I don't think there's anything I need to know, actually. I mean, if I was going for an interview, I'd be straight there with you.
Oh, bless. Thank you.
So summing up, you know, practice the questions, practice the scenarios that you might be in with regards to that company, practice some questions that you want to ask them, and know about the company culture and the importance of that, and make a great entrance. Know what is appropriate to wear and how to behave for that interview.
Absolutely. And I think you've got a really good sort of interview package and some free resources and top tips and things as well. And I also have a Be Better Prepared for Interview Success resource that all interview coaching candidates that work with me get that as well. But it's a really good way to know what you need to be preparing, getting rid of all these general Google questions and everything like that. It's getting to the nub of what it is that you need to be better prepared.
And do you ever hear years later candidates you've worked with how they're getting on? Do they ever call you back and say, Sarah, guess what? I've not only got that interview, I'm on to the next one and I'm really doing well.
Yeah, and you know, having testimonials and hearing the success stories is why I keep doing what I do. It's one of those things. I'm genuinely excited when people get the job offer, and sometimes people don't get the job, but they don't get it because they're not the right candidate, or actually it wasn't right for them. You know, it's not getting an offer isn't always the end of the world, but this is about how you embrace the fact that you've done the best job that you can. You've presented the best self that you can, and you've prepared the best that you can. So, you know, I really love hearing when people get the job, they've surprised themselves how much better they felt about that experience. And some people have even said they've enjoyed an interview experience. So that's a real big takeaway for me. But, you know, it's a bit like yourself, you know, when you're seeing people and the whole change in the way they hold themselves, the way they communicate, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. It's amazing. I love it. And sometimes, I mean, that fast track graduate recruit team I worked with Johnson & Johnson, I hear back from them too. Oh, guess what, Barbara? I'm going for such and such an interview. Have you got any tips about what to wear for this company?
Yeah.
And keeping in touch with people is key, isn't it? Because it not only is lovely to hear how they're getting on, but it keeps us informed about what we're coaching people and how it's working. and how it's of value to them, and that informs us in our businesses too.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, Barbara, talking to you. And, I've really enjoyed talking about sort of the experiences that I've had with prepping sort of clients as well for interview. But if there's anything else that people would like to find out that are watching or listening to this podcast, then our contact details will be made available. We'd love to hear from you, so do reach out. Thanks for listening.
Definitely. Thank you.